Hello people, welcome to this lesson. In this lesson, we're going to talk about threading and we're going to have threads inside here. So this is our authenticate function. We saw it previously. I'm going to import a slave function to show you why. Forgive me if you can hear the noise in the background and a chicken crow. Um, so I've imported a slave function. I want to show you how important um, threading it. So let's just run our file. I've not yet used the slip function. Now you can see if I type in something, it works, and we get our push to this page, which is in our code. I was a sign in page. You can see we first authenticate and get that pushed. Even if this backend it was behind this code like this would have first run before this. It's just that external code ran before the you can see that it first ran before we had our push. And so forgive me, we're gonna delete this code, the process that it takes with the sleep function. I'm gonna sleep for 5 seconds. 5 seconds. And now let's just see how long. You can see we're waiting for 5 seconds, and our UI has it froze before the 5 seconds was over and before we had our push. So in case you're doing something that takes time, if you do something that takes time, your whole UI, the entire UI will freeze, and the user, it's gonna be non-respondent till the process is done before the user can continue what he's doing. But you don't have to, because when you're done, you can use threads, and when you are done with what you're doing, you can send the information back to. So when you use the threads, this function will return, the user can go back to it. So let's use threads now. Normally we use thread with slave function because normally what you're doing, forgive me about that chicken crow, I mean the chicken crows. Normally we use threading with sleep because what you're doing is very fast. And so your threading is going to keep doing over and over and over again, especially if you're using threading and a loop. You're going to keep doing over and over and over again. So you decide to sleep on it maybe 1/10 of a second. Other than that, you're going to use all of the system resources, but you don't need to use all of the system resources. All right, so you just sleep at 1/10 of a second, and before you repeat the loop. But this time what we're doing is not a loop, we'll be done, so we won't use it together with the sleep function. Okay, but anyway, I'll keep it there to show. So what we do is to create when we use with thread, the function that KML will call will be a normal function normally, and then we'll create a hidden an underscore function, and so with the same name, of course the same arguments, like this. And then that one will be interested in handling the things that normally this guy would have handled. So this guy will call this guy, so this guy will start the thread and call this guy in the thread. All right, so this function is what will do the job. If you just calls this, it was just, so we'll create a thread here for this guy. So this guy will be a thread function, and then we'll call it. So let's have a threads. All right, so what we do is authenticate thread or thread. Let's go to threading. The thread is quite easy and quite straightforward. Target is equal to the function that you want to call, and then you pass in uh any arguments that you have to pass in. And yes, I want to pass in. If you didn't have to pass an argument, you don't have to call this. Now I'll make the thread a daemon, so that when the main thread exits, the application exits, this one too exits. Okay, it's just now that it's a daemon, I restarted. So here's where we're calling this guy. So I will start this thread. Before I will sleep for 5 seconds. Just I will not sleep for 5 seconds. I will sleep for 5 seconds here to show you that once I've started this guy, this function that the KML layer or the UI layer called, even if it's going to call another function that will delay for 5 seconds, it won't affect the responsiveness of the UI. All right, and later whatever information we want to send, we can send it over to the KML layer via signals. That's how. All right, so yeah, let's test this thing. Now anything goes. I'm having a lot of error, and that's gonna affect. All right, let's see the error. All right, it's not argument values. I'm supposed to spell the whole thing. I'm sure arguments. All right, I'm supposed to spell the whole thing. All right, let me restart this thing. All right. Oh, again, it's supposed to be class program. It's supposed to be S. Oh. All right, forgive me about that. All right, so you can see we have responded and we're waiting for 5 seconds for the actual authenticate. You can see it's done. So if when the authentication is done, we could have sent something over here. And so yes, you can see. So if the authentication is going to take a long time, it's not going to affect the UI. The UI is going to go on with its life whilst it's waiting. Normally we will show a loader in those times. Of course, we won't show this page which they're supposed to see after they've been signing. We won't show it to them, but rather show a loader to them. But the UI will be responsive and all that, and then we'll be waiting to give them feedback if they sign in properly and all that. All right, so that'll be it for this lesson, the threading. Studying the threading. I forgot this thing because there are a lot of, sometimes it's AGV, AGV, and sometimes you spell the whole thing. All right, so see you in the next lesson.